This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Chuck Tinte. I'm in for Brittany today. The number of people who are homeless in Winnipeg hit a record high last year. The Winnipeg street census was done before the Manitoba government launched a strategy to end chronic homelessness. But as CBC's Josh Crabb reports, advocates say there's a lot more work to do.
Wasps fly around as Rhonda Bruce tidies the area outside her tarp-covered tent along the Assiniboine River in a homeless encampment. Inside, there's a mattress, blankets, and an array of belongings. You said you don't like it.
It's tough times when it's raining and your clothes are all wet, and you have to put it in the garbage and start all over.
The 46-year-old mother from Poplar River First Nation is part of a growing number of people experiencing homelessness in Winnipeg.
More people are living without housing than ever before, with Indigenous people, youth, older adults, and newcomers disproportionately affected.
The number of homeless people in November 2024 was the highest on record since End Homelessness Winnipeg's street census started in 2015. The latest point-in-time count identified at least 2,469 people without a permanent place to live. The report suggests the number is likely even higher and makes several recommendations to get people housed.
Stronger supports, more affordable housing.
Dozens of outreach staff and volunteers visited encampments, shelters, and public spaces in Winnipeg's core over 5 days last November. Of the 2,500 people experiencing homelessness, more than 400 were living unsheltered at the time in a vehicle, a public space, or an encampment. The Manitoba government launched its Your Way Home strategy aimed at ending chronic homelessness in January. Housing and Homelessness Minister Bernadette Smith says since then, 77 people have been moved out of encampments and into Manitoba housing units where they can get mental health and addiction support.
Which is ensuring that people are staying, maintaining their housing, but also getting the supports that they need to be successfully housed.
Bruce has been staying in an apartment but left because she didn't feel comfortable or safe. She says this encampment is her only option right now.
Because I tried 3 places already. No luck.
She hopes to rent a room in a downtown hotel, but for now, this tent is where she'll stay. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
2 men are facing theft charges after being arrested in a homeless encampment near Waterfront Drive in Winnipeg. Police used a warrant to search the temporary shelter along the river. One criminal law expert says that could make it easier for charges to stick. CBC's Mike Arsenault has more.
2 men are facing charges of theft under $5,000 after being arrested in what police called a bike chop shop. It was operating out of an encampment, and police used a warrant to search the area. Police say it could be the first time a warrant was used in this setting. Police found 50 frames, 77 tires, 53 rims, and 5 complete bikes at a temporary structure police say was being used to dismantle bikes. Defense lawyer Chris Gamby says getting a warrant to search the encampment will help the charges stick in court.
In going ahead and getting a warrant, they're kind of really limiting the possibility that defense are going to be, challenging the lawfulness of the search, right? It's a different ballgame when there's a warrant.
Gamby says without a warrant, the Crown would potentially have to justify the lawfulness of the search in court. He believes getting the warrant is smart police work.
Probably a good move by them to do that. Part of it is that there is some respect for the people who live in encampments, and I think they do have a right to, dignity, privacy.
Manitoba's Housing, Addictions and Homelessness Minister, Bernadette Smith, says she supports enforcement of all illegal activity.
Whether it's in encampments, in community, we want people to be safe and secure. Encampments, that's their homes, right? Just like it would be your home. So we're working in collaboration with the city, with the police, with frontline organizations.
Smith wouldn't say if police consulted with her before getting the warrant. In a statement to CBC, Mayor Scott Gillingham acknowledged frustrations Winnipeggers have around bike theft and said, "I appreciate the work of the Winnipeg Police Service to investigate and shut down what could be a bicycle chop shop, and trust them to take whatever legal steps they determine are necessary to support their investigations." Gamby says encampments and criminal activity need to be treated as separate issues.
If they're enforcing the criminal law, that's a different vibe than anything else with respect of what is happening with the encampment and whether or not someone has a right to be on that property.
Both men charged were released on a promise to appear in court. Mike Arsenault, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Housing prices are declining across the country, but not in Winnipeg. This city is seeing home prices hit record levels. The average home price is up almost 10% from last year at around $450,000. Michael Fraze at the Winnipeg Regional Real Estate Board says supply is part of the reason.
Still have this like pandemic hangover with supply. But the difference is with us and some of the major other markets in Canada this year is they had demand fall off. Like Toronto, Vancouver had like sales plummeted this year. Now they're oversupplied and they're starting to rebound, where we've had the complete opposite effect. Our demand has remained strong.
Fraze says homes around that $450,000 level are scooped up within weeks of being put up on the market. Well, more than 5,500 people are still displaced by wildfires in Manitoba. That includes students. That's why the start of the school year could look a little different this year. The CBC's Alana Cole looks at how some are gearing up for September.
Wildfire has left people from Leaf Rapids out of their homes since early July. Irvin Biggity says his kids are feeling it. They spent weeks in Winnipeg before heading to Thompson.
They weren't used to, not being at home. I know that they're missing their pets. They're missing, their own bed, missing our usual, system, and having to live in the hotels for as long as we had.
Now it's nearly the start of school. Biggity's going back to Leaf Rapids to help get the community ready. He's expecting most people will be allowed to return mid-September. He worries starting school temporarily in a new place could add more stress to his family. That's why he plans to wait until they go home to send his kids back to class.
I don't want my kid to fall behind, but I also don't want my kid to be in any harm or danger or, in uncertainty.
If mid-September comes and Leaf Rapids School hasn't opened, the family will enroll in Thompson. The province says more than 5,000 people are still displaced by wildfires, and planning is underway to help make sure kids can start school where they are. Matt Henderson says the Winnipeg School Division is working with the province and the St. James Assiniboia School Division on welcoming students. He says there could be up to 400 students province-wide who need a place to learn. His division plans to meet with families in person.
There are probably families who don't trust the school system in Winnipeg or are at least leery of it because it's a strange system to them, and we want to make sure that we're doing it in a culturally responsive way. Part of our strategy is to make sure that our elders, our aunties, our uncles, knowledge keepers are going to the hotels to really sit with families and to see what their needs are.
The Brandon School Division Superintendent Matthew Gustafson says they're planning too. That includes looking at transportation and staffing.
With this much flux and uncertainty, for us, it's important to take our lead from the affected communities and families versus trying to plan in isolation on that.
Gustafson calls this an evolving situation for as many as 250 students there. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Manitoba's Auditor General says the government needs to do more when it comes to financial oversight for rural municipalities. The auditor looked into a number of issues, including a cyber attack on the RM of Westlake Gladstone. In that case, someone made unauthorized withdrawals of nearly $500,000. The auditor says once the RM found out about the attack, it didn't do enough to find out the root cause. In a video message posted on YouTube, the auditor says the province has to do more when it comes to RMs.
In the third section of the report, we looked at provincial government oversight of municipalities. We found that the Department of Municipal and Northern Relations does not adequately follow up on complaints and lacks sufficient oversight of how municipalities use government grants.
The minister responsible, Glenn Simard, says he is reviewing the report to determine what safeguards can be implemented, but says it's ultimately up to municipal governments to manage their decision-making. And let's bring in Riley Lechak now. Riley, today was very hot.
Yeah, and we're looking at temperatures warming up as we get toward the weekend. This afternoon, 27 degrees through much of southern Manitoba, through the Right River Valley. Bit cooler, we've seen a little bit of cloud cover into northwestern Ontario, 22 in Kenora this hour, or through the afternoon, 29 in Swan River, 26 in Thompson, giving you a sense at how far west some of this heat extends, looking at 31 in La Ronge, 32 in Fort McMurray, under a big ridge of high pressure that's encompassed Western Canada, leading to some of these above seasonal temperatures, and in some cases temperatures that are upwards of 10 degrees above seasonal for this time of the year. Out of some of that, a touch humidity that has fueled a few thunderstorms popping up, isolated thunderstorms into parts of western Manitoba through the afternoon hours. Will increase the heat a bit as we get through the day on Friday. Chuck, 29 degrees, light southwesterly wind, and things warm up for the weekend. I'll talk about that when I come back.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Still ahead, a reunion 5 decades in the making. The 60s Scoop survivors return to Manitoba is up next. A man who was adopted during the 60s scoop and taken to New Zealand came back to Manitoba on Wednesday. Stephen Richard with CBC Indigenous was at the airport for the reunion that was more than 50 years in the making.
Jonathan Hooker saw his mom for the first time in 52 years on Wednesday.
I hope people have a chance to reconnect. Like I say, I didn't know because I lived on the other side of the world and the news from Canada is very limited. So I was lucky, I guess, with my adoptive parents. They gave me enough information and they sort of filled in a few other spots. But the last 5 years, I guess, it's really started to happen. I've sort of made more of an effort to find my way home.
Hooker was just 18 months old the last time the pair were together in 1973. The 60 scoop refers to when First Nations, Métis, and Inuit children were taken from their homes and placed with non-Indigenous families and lost their cultural identities. Hooker was adopted by a family from the United Kingdom living in Canada who later settled in New Zealand. Hooker met other members of his biological family who live in Texas and northern Manitoba last year, but not his mom.
I'm happy to see my son. I thought I would never see him again. He was only 2 months old when they took him away from me. And my other daughter, a month old.
He was able to track down his biological family thanks to a DNA kit. He used social media to track down his sister and learned about his mother with the help of 60 Scoop survivors advocate Colleen Rajat.
You know, just thinking about him today and knowing he was on that plane and knowing that he was going to see his birth mother coming down the escalator, I was just filled with nerves for him. And to see this moment happen after a year, it's really emotional, and I'm so happy for him.
First Nation leaders were on hand to welcome Hooker back to Manitoba. Stephen Richard, CBC Indigenous, Winnipeg.
A new transitional housing project for Métis women and children is one step closer to becoming a reality. The facility will be for women leaving violent relationships or getting out of emergency shelters. The $8.5 million cost will be shared by the Manitoba Métis Federation along with the provincial and federal governments. It will have 10 fully furnished apartments, daycare and supports. The Federal Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs says this project represents a new beginning for Métis women and their families.
This isn't just a ceremony, it's a shift. It's a transitional housing facility that will offer women and families a place to live, to heal, to grow, and to do that right here. It's a place to recover and to start again after facing violence and hardship.
The first phase of the project is expected to open next spring. An exemption that allows Canadian retailers to ship their products to the U.S. duty-free is set to end this week. It's called the de minimis exemption, and it was targeted by U.S. President Donald Trump in an executive order signed this summer. As Paula Duhachek explains, small businesses in Canada say they're the ones who will pay the price.
So all our best sellers get put right close to our packing station.
The end of the de minimis exemption could mean a big hit to sales for this Brampton clothing maker. Right now, about half its online orders are to customers in the U.S.
Americans love your t-shirts.
They love our t-shirts.
Tell me about your hoodies.
These hoodies, t-shirts, and sweatpants are 100% made in North America, with U.S. cotton knit, dyed, and cut right here in Canada. But even so, the end of this critical trade exemption means he expects to pay significant new fees to get the product into the U.S.
As little as the shipment is valued at, even if it's $50, there's a nearly $20 fee to just get it across the border. So that, that will bring about a lot of resistance from U.S. clients. I'm sure we'll lose customers.
It's still very hard.
This trade lawyer says the end of de minimis is a big deal. Up till now, companies could send up to $800 worth of goods into the U.S. duty-free, but thanks to an executive order from U.S. President Donald Trump, that exemption is ending Friday.
It hits so-called mom and pop shops disproportionately. And many of them who have relied on these low-value shipments to the United States as part of their bread and butter for survival are being hit by this.
That could be the reality for this Vancouver-based retailer.
There's definitely a chance the business doesn't survive this.
She's trying to make sense of the new rules, but in the meantime is taking drastic measures.
We have cut off all of our shipping to the United States because right now, with the amount of risk and lack of information shipping to the States, we can't justify it.
The Canadian Apparel Federation says it will be a big adjustment for businesses to move forward in a world without de minimis. For now, this t-shirt maker is mulling its next move, which will likely involve a renewed focus on the Canadian consumer. Paula Duhacek, CBC News, Brampton, Ontario.
And Riley is back. Riley, today, you know, I love my afternoon walks during lunchtime. I kind of regretted it. It's kind of hot outside.
With the iced coffee.
With the iced coffee, for sure. Yeah, let's not forget that.
Tomorrow, you'll want to really make sure you got that cold beverage with you, because we are looking at temperatures really heating up as we get into the next couple of days here. So if you are going out for an iced coffee tomorrow, maybe make it the extra large, because we are looking at some hot temperatures really across the province, which I'll show you as we get into the weekend. Yeah, you might want to throw some extra ice in there too, because you might need a little bit of a chill as we get through, particularly Friday, but into the weekend as well. We're looking at heat remaining in place. Okay, so I was showing you a sunset last night. Well, Lynn sent a sunrise in, and I didn't want to discriminate against the sunrises. Usually I'm not up this early. That's why I love my sunsets so much. Thanks, Lynn, for sending this in from here in the city. You can send your pics, as always, to talkback@cbc.ca. So this big ridge remaining in place really right across Western Canada, even up into the territory, seeing temperatures that are above seasonal for this time of the year. Bit of extra energy here through Saskatchewan and Manitoba. That's what's fueled some of that thunderstorm development through the later afternoon hours into parts of Western Manitoba, even as far east as the Inner Lakes, seeing a couple of pop-up showers through the afternoon. As we get into Friday, a bit of cloud cover to the west thanks to a bit of ridging south of the border, maybe a couple of scattered showers out of some of this into Western Manitoba as we get through the day. Kind of similar to today, but really that's about it for any real weather over the next several days. Mix of sun and clouds, hot temperatures remaining in place as we get through Saturday through Sunday. Monday is kind of our change day, which I'll show you here in our upper level pattern. So back into Eastern Canada, big trough in the jet stream here. This is cool temperatures down in some cases to 19 and 20 degrees in the Greater Toronto area through the afternoon. Compare that to what we've seen here in Western Canada. This does start to change though, as we see another trough developing, and this one even bigger as we get into early next week. So Monday, the change day. That could spark some thunderstorms as we get through the afternoon, but still a hot day into Monday. But as we get into Tuesday, you can really see this trough setting in place with some of these greens and these blue colors. Those are temperatures that are starting to sink down closer to the single digits for overnight lows in some cases as we get into the week next week, which I'll show you in your 7-day forecast. For now, though, temperatures as we get through Friday, looking at 31s and 32s into the west through the day tomorrow. Maybe tack a couple degrees on for some humidity onto some of this, but not overly oppressive in terms of humidity as we get through Friday into Saturday. More than 30 degrees tomorrow, then we're into 28s and 29s, Chuck, into eastern Manitoba and northwestern Ontario. Your 7-day forecast and the hot temperatures when I come back.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Still ahead, new research finds that more than half of Canadians breathe in air pollution above the national safety standard last year. More on the finding of the Air Quality Life Index just ahead. Stay with us. A new study warns that wildfires are erasing decades of clean air gains in North America. That's according to the latest annual update of the Air Quality Life Index, released today by the University of Chicago. The researchers say that the 2023 wildfire season broke more records than hectares burned. It also fueled Canada's worst air quality in nearly 30 years, and it pushed pollution levels in the United States to their highest since 2011. They found that more than half of Canadians breathe in air pollution above the national safety standard last year. Health experts say this is leading to long-term effects on the health of Canadians.
When you have these exposures year-round, essentially, or many months of the year, then we're talking about chronic disease. So not just someone with a disease that gets worse, someone that never had a disease developing something. And again, there's already evidence for as much as cancer from this, which is quite concerning.
With the heat that we're looking at over the next few days, good pool day as we get Friday into Saturday, even into Sunday in some parts of the province. I think Odie will really like this weather. On that floaty, I can already predict that Odie's going to be spending a lot of time there over the weekend. Thanks, Lyndon. You can send your pictures, as always, to talkback@cbc.ca. 29 into the afternoon. Maybe tack on a couple degrees for humidity onto that, but not overly oppressive as we get through the weekend. 30s and 31s for Winnipeg into Saturday and Sunday, but could see temperatures closer to 32 or 33 in the west, and then that real significant cool down by the middle of next week. The age-old saying is the apple chuck does not fall far from the tree.
Well, our daily lift is a case of the exact opposite. In fact, the apples fell really, really far away. Make it several cases. Farmers in northern Italy have found a better way to move their apple harvest down a steep hill. Cable cars, each loaded with 300 kilos of the fruit, travel more than a kilometer along a 90-meter drop.
The system has eliminated 5,000 trips each year previously that were made by trucks. The crates of apples are taken to caves near the foot of the hills that act as natural cold storage. It's part of a broader push to reduce emissions and use renewable energy. Almost looks like something that you could also ride in.
It's scary though. I'm not gonna join if ever they have.
It's kind of fun. Maybe.
No, not for me.
And tasty at the same time.
And you can snack. Bye.